Welcome to episode 2 of Path of Exile Skill Mechanics Explored, which today is going to be more like Hexblast mechanics really confuse me. Yeah, I didn't have fun making this one, and I also feel like I have more questions than answers. So, I'm going to go through what I tried and what I found, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I did not try, but might be good ideas. Like with last time, I'll start with the basics of how Hexblast works, then get into some scaling ideas before finishing up with my gameplay experiences. Also, I still plan to explore Arc, really looking forward to that one, so if that sounds interesting to you, get subscribed, leave a like, ring the notification bell. So, here we have Hexblast, a chaos skill that deals chaos damage, but it specifically detonates a curse on every enemy up to 9 within an area, causing explosions and removing the curses. Now, the explosion radius is fairly small, the targeting radius is fairly large, and it is target capped, which I found personally to be rather awkward, especially in something like a breach. In terms of how I am scaling it, this is my Archmage setup. I don't think that is the best way to do it, but I'll get into more of that in the scaling section. So you can see that purple aura circle. That is the range in which curses will be detonated. This is an AoE skill. You'll notice from the tag, AoE Chaos Payoff. So things like Chaos Mastery do increase the level. Now let's go into a map to demonstrate this a little bit more. As you can see, it is deleting everything within the circle AoE by removing the curses. But how am I automatically cursing enemies? Well, that is due to a blasphemy setup. I'm using conductivity, magnified effect, ritualistic curse. I was trying Hexbloom. I have not noticed any effect from Hexbloom here. So, I don't know if that's just because it's really hard to notice or if it doesn't work. But I suspect it doesn't work. Which would kind of make sense since blasphemy is applying the curse's effect to enemies in radius. And let me try to get this guy. It's really hard to get enemies to cooperate for this. So you could see right there, the Hexblast hit these enemies, did not hit this enemy, so I had to cast separately. And this is honestly my biggest problem with Hexblast as a mechanic. That's an example of the curse not seeming to apply until the enemy actually walks into the radius. Either that or Hexbloom is just a really small area of effect. The next thing, Spell Echo. Causes the skill to echo twice, except it doesn't seem to. I'm only seeing one purple circle, and if I use this on enemies, that guy survived the first hit. He did not get hit with a Spell Echo. So either Spell Echo does not work, or because it's removing the curse, the blasphemy hasn't reapplied it when it echoes, but it seems like Spell Echo does not work with Hexblast. And it seems like Spell Cascade also doesn't work with Hexblast. Because you'd think, in something like a breach, you'd get crazy clear if you're cursing enemies with blasphemy with a bunch of curse AoE, and then you have Spell Cascade. Let's do this breach. This is why I wanted to do a T12 map, because breaches are super rippy on this setup. Because, like, I'm deleting things directly in a small circle. But there's so many more monsters spawning that I can't really hit or damage, because they're slightly outside of the small circle of damage that Hexblast uses to delete enemies. You can kind of see this here. There's cursed enemies very nearby, that if there was any sort of cascade effect, it should be hitting them, and it just does not seem to be hitting them. So in short, a lot of the things that I tried just didn't work, which is really weird and kind of interesting. Something else kind of weird and interesting is you can't really double or triple up on your curses to chain trigger your Hexblasts. Again, I don't know how many of these things are a bug or not, and I will admit I have tested this a lot less rigorously than I did with my impending doom. Because I don't know that I want this series to be I tested every possible build and combination and permutation, so much as I tried to skill for a few hours. This is what I found, and I'm really interested on what other people think. So, that's what I tested. Those are some of the interactions that I noticed. So, how does Hexblast scale? Well, it's an AoE chaos skill, so normally chaos damage would be the way to scale it. In my case, because I'm Archmage, most of my damage is lightning, so lightning damage scales it instead. But I don't think that's the correct way to play Hexblast. I think the best way to play Hexblast is actually getting big, beefy hits, which means you should be doing it on a Witch, and either playing Infernalist and getting a bunch of Demon Form stacks, or you should be going Blood Mage, stacking life and getting the 15% base crit. The crit chance on Hexblast itself is not particularly good, so without Blood Mage, scaling into crit can be a little bit awkward. With Blood Mage, it has 15% base crit, which should make it very easy to scale Critical Strike. I also noticed that gem levels are quite effective. So if you want a big old chunk of extra damage, using a +5 Chaos skill wand, using things to increase the level of Chaos skills, such as supports or nodes on your tree, are all good ways to scale Hexblast. If you are trying to kill single target bosses, you're not really going to get that much scaling, if any, from AoE. Sure, it's nice quality of life, you don't have to stand quite as close, but on clear, AoE, both for your curses and your Hexblast, is good. For your curse, it means enemies are in lethality range, where you can detonate your curses from a Hexblast much faster, or multiple Hexblast explosions can overlap on something like a Tenkiei rare, effectively shotgunning it to death. Also, I don't know of any way to use Hexblast to reapply a curse to enemies, but if you could use Hexblast to reapply a curse to enemies, that would be a super efficient way to scale it, as then the faster you cast, the faster it reapplies, and you wouldn't have to worry about any reapplication rate through something like a Blasphemy. But as far as I know, there is no way to do that currently in Path of Exile 2. And again, if there is a way, please let me know down below, because I swear every time I talk about something, I learn about a cool new unique item in the game, and honestly, that's been one of the coolest parts of Path of Exile 2 for me. So in terms of my gameplay experiences, I definitely got the feeling I was not scaling the damage the right way by just shoving this into my Archmage setup. But also, I found the skill to be very, very awkward to use. You have to get a lot of curse AoE before you get to hit stuff before they're really in the monsters can interact with you range. And additionally, when you get into those high density areas, such as breaches, monsters tend to swarm you very, very effectively. I found this to be especially problematic in more open maps. In maps that are much more closed off, and especially those with narrow corridors, it's honestly a lot easier to deal with because enemies are only coming from one or two directions, and you can kind of just fire a Hexblast in front of you, fire a Hexblast behind you. But I also did not spend nearly as much time playing Hexblast as I did Impending Doom, because I didn't really enjoy playing Hexblast. Also, if you've played more Hexblast, you like this skill, please tell me down below how you're building it, why you like it, all that stuff, because I'm really interested to hear about some good Hexblast setups. But that is it for me today. If you want to see more content like this, check out my exploration of Impending Doom, where I did do more things and honestly had a lot more fun with the skill. Definitely going to play that at some point in the future. It'll be linked up in the card and down below. But for now, thank you very much for watching to the end. I'm glad you've enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one, where I'm exploring Ark.